See, we do a bhajan with the guitar first. Okay. Since we are worshiping Nitai Gaura Nataraj, I thought we could do this bhajan. Gauranga Balite Have Pulakash. Everyone knows it?
I want to pull up the stage. Put it
Gauranga Balite Pulakashari Atinade Mulite Nayane Bhavide. Corona, oh baby, some sort of passion, the picture and then we're supposed to speak a little bit. So tonight's program, next we're going to chant Jai Radha Madhava. Then we're going to speak a little bit about Krishna's holy names, and then we are going to take some questions from you all. So I'm sure that everybody has questions about Krishna consciousness. So you want to leave it open as much as possible for everyone to talk about their doubts, their problems, their challenges in Krishna consciousness, and their goals in life. And maybe introduce some of you. You can introduce some of you can introduce yourselves to me, because I haven't met everybody here. So there's a specific melody we're going to use for chanting Jai Radha Madhava that you may not be familiar with. So listen to it first. I'm just going to chant right now. And then we'll do it responsibly after I've gone through the whole prayer of Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunya Viyavi. Don't repeat. Gopi Jala Palapa, Jaya Giri Varadali, Jaya Giri Varadali, Yasoda Nandana, Jaya Vraja Jananjana, Yapunatira Panacha, Redaya, Kunya Is everybody ready? Yes. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunya Vihari. You do this responsibly, but did you have it? Okay. Good. So I chant, you chant response, okay. I was just doing it the first time with me going through the whole thing so you could hear the melody. Try it again. Once more. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunya Vihari. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunya Vihari. Jaya Giri Varadali, Jaya Giri Varadali. Okay. Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Giri Varadali, Jaya Giri Varadali, Yasoda Nandana, Jaya Vraja Jananjana, Yasoda Nandana, Jaya Vraja Jananjana, Punatira Malachari, Jaya Kunya Vihari, Jaya Kunya Vihari. Yamunatira Vanachari, Jaya Kunya Vihari, Jaya Kunya Vihari. Jaya Kunya Vihari, Jaya Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvitacharya Ositana Sitashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Gauti Vaishnava Vrinda Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Friends, say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Shri Ramakrishna Gopi Govardhan Sai Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Vrindavanam ki jai, Macharanam ki jai, Jagadadha Swami ki jai, Yamuna ki jai, Shrimati Tulasi Devi ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premananda. All glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Purle, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Charni, Nivashesha Shunyavadi, Pasyacha Deshatarni. So I'm very happy to be here again with all of you. And I'd just like to tell a few stories that glorify the chanting of Hare Krishna. Some of you, I guess, are new, coming for the first time here. And it's important to understand why we chant Hare Krishna, what's the benefit of chanting Hare Krishna, and why do we continue chanting? Okay, so last night we were talking about Lord Ram. Those of you who were here with us last night, we know we were talking about Lord Ram because we're very inspired by Lord Ram, having just seen, not directly, but through the internet, the opening of the new temple in Ayodhya. And this is actually a great step forward for all of Indian culture, spiritual culture, and recognition of the great heritage of India, the spiritual heritage of India, which goes back millions of years. That may come as a shock to those of you who study anthropology or archaeology, but there's been a Western bias against Indian culture for hundreds of years. And this Western bias is based upon this mood in the Western world that the Western people, I'm not Western, I'm from India, whether you like it or not. So the Western people have this cultural superiority, right? And so in order to establish, just a little history for you before I get into the philosophy of the holy name, in order to establish the cultural superiority, there's this process in science and also especially in archaeology and anthropology called a knowledge filter. Knowledge filter means you accept the evidence that proves your particular points that you want to prove. But evidence that doesn't prove your points, you don't accept. So you consider it to be what's called technically anomalous evidence. So let's talk a little bit about Indian history. So many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago, there was this Western guy called William James who went to India, and he discovered how sophisticated Sanskrit was. And he said, wow, this is more sophisticated than Greek or Latin. And that was a sort of a shock to him. He was thinking, how is this possible? And he was thinking, well, the only way that could be possible is if we, the Westerners, went there and gave them some of our culture. Of course, the Westerners at that particular time were immersed, just coming out of the Middle Ages, which is pretty devastating for even Western philosophy. So they came up with this whole thing called the Aryan invasion theory. You've heard of that before?
Yeah.
Which has recently been disproved, but even if you read the textbooks, they don't talk about how it's been disproved. So, anyway, so many, many years ago, Lord Ram appeared on this planet, and there is definite archaeological evidence for temples built for him, and even for his pastimes, and even for Krishna's pastimes 5,000 years ago. And so I've been very inspired about this recently because of the building of the Ram Temple. And actually I've done a lot more research into archaeology and anthropology with honest anthropologists and honest archaeologists. So that's why, that prefaces my whole talk about Krishna's holy name. You may be thinking, why is he talking about history or archaeology or anthropology when he wants to talk about Krishna's holy name? Because the story I'm going to tell, at least the first story I'm going to tell about Krishna's holy name, is related to Lord Ram. For those of you who don't know who Lord Ram is an avatar of Krishna. Now, who is Krishna? Krishna, I don't want to use the word God, but that's what he is. He's the supreme, let's use a better word. He is the supreme personality from whom everything comes, through whom everything enters, who's omniscient, omnipresent, all good, all knowing, all beautiful, and actually all renounced too. This is the quality, or these are the qualities of Bhagavan. So Krishna comes down to this earth planet from time to time, as he says in the Bhagavad Gita, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharatamyutana dharmasya tadam amrijavyaham. He comes down whenever there's some problem. Not little problem, but problem in what we call dharma. Dharma means that people are disobeying the laws of the universe, the laws of God. Now you may say, what do you mean there's laws of God? Well, don't you have gravity? You know, what goes up must come down, etc. like that. So these laws are physical laws, but there's actually subtle laws of nature. And these laws are very much connected to what we call the law of karma. And some of you may have heard about the law of karma. The law of karma means basically action and reaction. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So that's the law of karma. So, and there's things that are karmically give you a good reaction, and there's things that karmically give you a bad reaction. And so when people start to do a lot of things that karmically give them bad reactions, like this global warming and stuff that we're experiencing in America, I hope it's not too politically incorrect to talk about these things, then things get pretty haywire. And the earth starts revolting like we're seeing now. And so many new diseases come up. And so at that point, Krishna decides to come down. And as we were talking about last night, he comes down to reestablish Dharma. Prutranaya Satanam Vinashaya Chadushkritam, and to protect people who are following the rules. And he doesn't really have to come down to do that because he has his energies which can accomplish that quite easily. So anyway, so Krishna comes down in different ways. I mean, sometimes he comes down, he's really cool, as we were talking about last night. Sometimes he comes down as himself, sometimes he comes down in disguised form. He may even dress up as an animal to come down. And there's actually incarnations. Anyone who's studying what's called the Dasha Avatar knows that there's 10 main appearances of Krishna, and some of them are non-human forms. You may say, why does he do such a thing? Well, the reason he does such a thing is he wants to enjoy himself. And just like little children sometimes, they may play as different animals. You know, I remember when I was young, I hate to talk about it, I would sometimes get down on all fours and make believe I was a dog and roll over. It was kind of fun. I'm sure that many of you did that when you were young. Maybe you were cows or dogs or cockroaches, maybe. I don't think that would happen. So anyway, Krishna does things in a fun way because Krishna is always having fun. And so we're talking about Lord Ramchandra. He appeared literally millions of years ago in India, and he appeared in a place called Ayodhya. And he traveled actually all over India, accomplishing his mission and saving his wife from kidnapping. He actually went to Lanka. It's called Sri Lanka, had a bridge built by some very nice monkeys. So anyway, I can get into that history. So that's why we're talking about Krishna's incarnation as Ram, who appeared millions of years ago, and in Ayodhya. Because I'm very inspired right now thinking about Ram. So, to glorify Krishna's holy names, I'm going to start with the first part of the Ramayana, one of the first parts of the Ramayana. Ramayana is the world's largest epic poem which describes the activities of Ram and his associates. So here's the story. So, once upon a time, millions of years ago, there was a criminal. And this particular criminal, he used to rob people, probably kill people, whatever needed to be done to support his family. He was very determined. This was his job. You know, what do you do for a job? I'm a criminal. Probably didn't pay taxes either. So anyway, so he's doing this and stopping everybody on the path. And where's your money or your life? So one day there's these 7 personalities who are walking on the path. These are called the Sapta Rishis. We need 7 great spiritual personalities. And these spiritual personalities obviously don't have any money. So he stops them on the path and he says, give me your money. So spiritual personalities, because they don't have any money, they try to preach. They say to him, don't you understand, here's the law of God or Dharma again, don't you understand that there's a lot of bad karma for doing this, for robbing people. And you're going to suffer like anything. And so he thought, his name was Ratnakara actually, he thought, yes, that may be true, and I accept the word of the sages, because in those days, even the robbers, they had some knowledge of the Vedic culture. Nice robbers. So he said, yes, but it's my duty. I have to support my family. I have to buy things for my wife. Put it in a modern context. My son wants an iPhone. You know. So anyway, so the Saptarishis, the 7 sages, say to him, do you think that your family would be willing to share in your karma, in your reactions? And he says, yes, they love me. Now we're going to discover what love is. So they say, go to your family and see if they're willing to share in the reactions for your bad karma. All right, so he goes home. And he says to his wife, Priya, do you want to take some of my karma? You know, I'm buying things for you all the time. And she says, hell no. Maybe not in that way, but anyway, she says, no, your business, you're the one who's supposed to work, and I'm supposed to enjoy, and I need some new saris. So get back there and get to work. And then he goes to his son, and he says the same thing to his son, and his son says, no, Dad. We mentioned before about the iPhone. He said, I need some new gadgets. Of course, it wasn't like that. I mean, I'm making it, put it in a modern context. Then he goes to his daughter. His daughter basically says the same thing. And then he goes back to the sages and says, my family doesn't really love me. Because the love in this world often, I mean, there is love between family members sometimes. But generally what we call love is more akin to lust. Lust means I see you as an object rather than a subject. In other words, an object for my enjoyment. Just like I have a computer. That's an object. I don't see myself at all concerned for the welfare of my computer. Doesn't matter, as long as it works. And if it doesn't work, I just take it apart and try to fix it or send it to a repair shop. So people have that attitude in relationship to each other sometimes in this world. So that is called lust. In other words, not asking what I can do for you, but asking what you can do for me. Love is actually trying to satisfy the person who you love, or do the best thing for the person whom you love, and sacrificing sometimes your own happiness. And that's the definition of pure love, especially in relationship to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. There's a very interesting Sanskrit verse, Anyavi lashata shunyam jnana karmana vritamanu kutena krishnanam shilanam bhaktirudhamam, that pure love is devoid of, let's say, what we call a subtle desire, just to enjoy ourselves mentally, or grosser desire, enjoy ourselves physically, or even the desire for liberation. Pure love is simply based upon serving Krishna in an unmotivated, undeterred way. So this is the definition of love. So anyway, so obviously this Ratnagara did not have such a loving relationship with his family. So he said to the sages, it's not love, it's lust. So they said, what do you want to do about it? And he says, what should I do about it? And they said, maybe you should chant the names of Ram. And he said, no, can't do. I am too sinful. I have no attraction for chanting the names of Ram or spiritual names. But I can chant something that I like. So give me some mantra that I would really like to chant. So they say to him, okay, taking a while. Here is a mantra. You like death, don't you? You've been killing people? He said, yeah. You know, I like this. Just like we have in America, some of this music is based on violence or hurting people and stuff like that. So he really liked that type of music. So some of the music in America is like that. So yeah, give me a mantra like that. And they said, okay, here's a mantra. Mara, which means death. He said, oh great. All I got to do is chant it and become free from karma. They said, sure thing. So he starts chanting Mara, 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 Mara. Uh-oh. There's a problem there. I can't keep saying Mara. Try it, you can't. Mara, 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 Mara. I can't do it. You can't. Mara, 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 Mara. It just turns to Ram. Unless you're really degraded, then you keep saying Mara. I think that's a test we'll give all of you to see who can keep chanting Mara, Mara, Mara. I can't do it. Can you do it? That's your test.
Mara, 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 Mara.
You failed the test. Okay, so he starts chanting. Inadvertently, he's chanting Ram. Now, what does Ram mean? Actually, it means Lord Ramchandra. But the interesting thing is, the names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Namachintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigra Purnashuddha Nichibu Bhovina Dwam Namanamino. That's the verse from the premise. That the name of Krishna, Namachintamani, is spiritual Chintamani. Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa is full of the form, the qualities, the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila. So those words mean the name has the form of the Lord in it. The Rupa, that's the form. Guna, the qualities of the Lord, and the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's non-different. Namachintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vibra. It's perfect, complete, Purna Shuddha. It's completely pure, eternally liberated, Nitya Mukto, and non-different from Krishna or Ram. And actually, the name refers to Lord Ram, it refers to Balaram. We chant it, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So it refers to Balaram, Lord Ram, and also Radha Raman. Very, very interesting. So people ask, why are you chanting Ram's name? That's why. And so, he became so attached to chanting, he developed a taste as certain things disappeared, which are called anarthas. That means all of his greed, his lust, his anger, his illusion, kama, krodha, mana, matsarya, paribhaya, disappeared, and he was in complete ecstasy, and he was in such complete ecstasy chanting the Lord's holy names, that guess what happened? He didn't notice that an anthill was growing around him. Now, fortunately, he wasn't in Florida because there were no fire ants in that morning. You have fire ants here? Quite a few, right? So, anyway, fortunately for him. So an anthill grew around him. So he was surrounded by this giant anthill, and he kept chanting, Ram, 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 Ram. And so, eventually the sages came back just to see their disciple. So one day we'll give people that mantra, Mara, for initiation, when things start to get really degraded. Your name is Maradas. No, Maya Das, and your mantra is Mara. So anyway, so the sages came back and they saw this anthill that was chanting Ram Ram. And that's why he got the name Valmiki, that means the anthill sage. So they uncovered the anthill and they saw him chanting, and they sprinkled him with some holy water so he was able to revive completely. And he became such a great devotee of Lord Ram that he was able to compose the most important work on Lord Ram's pastimes, which is the Valmiki Ramayana, which I mentioned before is the world's largest epic poem. Interesting, isn't it? Just by chanting. So Sometimes in India people say, well, yeah, to be spiritual you have to be born in a Brahmin family, right? I mean, there's still a lot of this caste discrimination there. Of course, that's not what the Vedas teach. The Vedas teach that everybody should be understood according to his guna and karma, not according to his janma. There's a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Chaturvarnamaya Shishtam, guna karma vivakasha. Someone should be understood according to their qualities and work. Now, so, doesn't matter someone's past. In fact, the Vedic literatures say if you criticize someone for their past, you're committing an offense. It's just like, it's called the naked mother philosophy. Naked mother, I'll explain what that means. That means your mother was naked when she was born. No? Does everybody understand that? So you criticize her, oh, your mother is naked. That's crazy. Because now she's older and she's obviously wears clothes. So, that's a Bengali saying, that naked mother philosophy. Then you criticize someone for their past. No. You have to see what their qualities are now. So Valmiki had this terrible past, and then his qualities became those of the greatest saintly personality. And later on, he actually accepted instruction from Lord Brahma, and also from Narada Muni. And in this way, not only did he write or speak the Valmiki Ramayana, but he also was able to host Sita Devi in his ashram while she was in exile being sent away by Lord Ram. So this is proof of the potency of the Lord's holy name. One other story, not from the Ramayana, about the potency of the Lord's holy name. And this is a story from the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the famous story of the Jamil. Now, previous to this story being told in the Srimad Bhagavatam by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit, there was the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. 5 comes before 6. So, in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, what we find are descriptions of punishments for people who have committed bad karmic activities. And these descriptions, I'm not going to talk about them right now because they're horrifying. These descriptions are really bad. So when Parikshit Maharaj, the listener to the Srimad Bhagavatam, heard these descriptions, he didn't think, Jai, let these people suffer. You know, sometimes when we see someone has done something really bad, we want to see them suffer as a result. You know, someone has offended us, and then they get sick. Ha ha. God has taught you a lesson. Actually, I remember that in my own childhood, that when I was disobedient, which was most of the time, to my mother's instructions, and then something would happen, I get sick, and she'd say, God is teaching you a lesson. And I was thinking, what kind of God is that? He's always teaching me these terrible lessons. Why does he teach me some good lessons? So anyway, so sometimes, or in America especially, let's say if someone does some crime and we see them suffering in jail or going to the electric chair, we just like get really happy. He's suffering because he made us suffer. Even sometimes when someone is condemned to death in America, people will camp outside of the prison house and they'll do something called tailgating. I don't know what tailgating is. Usually do tailgating at football games and things like that, but they do that at prison house just to see when the guy is going to get killed. So this is called retribution. So retribution, that's what philosophies of justice called retributive justice. But that is not really how a Vaishnava thinks in terms of retribution, getting even. So when Parikshit Maharaj, getting back to the 5th canto, heard about all these different punishments, he didn't become happy. He said to Shukadeva Goswami, how can someone be relieved from all these punishments? And Shukadeva Goswami, first of all, gave him the wrong answer, which is interesting, because sometimes the disciple tests the spiritual master tests the disciple by giving him the wrong answer just to see if he caught it. So Shukadeva Goswami said to Parikshit Maharaj that simply by doing some sort of atonement, atonement means like you fast for a few weeks or something like that, and you torture yourself. Just like in Christianity, they had this thing called self-flagellation. You've heard about this before? Where the monks would sometimes hit themselves. Oh, I am so sinful. I'm so sinful. I mean, if anyone's seen that movie, Da Vinci Code, you saw that particular episode. So, Shukadeva Goswami said, atonement is the means to overcome these reactions or become purified. But Maharaj Parikshit, who is the hearer of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he said, this does not work. Because we see, he described it like an elephant bathing. An elephant bathes in the river, comes out and throws dust on himself. So a person commits a crime, does some atonement, and then what does he do? Does the same thing again. It's just like sometimes you have in the Catholic religion, someone will confess on Sunday, right? They'll go to confessional and they'll say, "Dear Father," referring to the priest, "I did this week. What did someone do? Or let's say someone smoked marijuana or something. Sorry if I'm offending anyone. So let's say they do something like that. And the father would say, don't do it again. Atone. They come back the next week and they say the same thing. And so basically the priest is getting bored because it's the same story. Been there, seen it, done it. Every week. So the atonement doesn't work because one still maintains the desire to do those things. And in the Bhagavad Gita it's described that we are forced avatam gamitena ganinam vishvarna kamarupena kundiya dusprena cha. We are forced by this kama rupa, this lust to do certain things or different desires. So we have to get rid of these desires to become free from that. So after a while, Shukadeva gives him the right answer, and the right answer is encapsulated in this one verse in the 6th canto, 1st chapter. Tasmad sankirtanam Vishnu chandamangalam amvasam mahatama pikoravya vijakantika nishkrikam. That simply by the chanting of Krishna's names, one can, this is the best atonement, one can become free of all sorts of sinful reactions and actually become established on the spiritual platform. And then Shukadeva Goswami tells him a very interesting story, and we're going to end with this story and then take questions, that illustrate this particular point. It's a story of a Jamil. A Jamil is someone who, don't want to get into the whole story, but he mistreated his wife and everything just so he could engage in what we call illicit activities, and he mistreated his parents, became a robber, and did so many crazy things. So anyway, so he was getting ready in this story to leave his body. And that's when you get your payment. So he's getting ready to leave his body, and fortunately for him, he had a young son, and his son had the name of God, the name of Krishna, named Narayan. So calling out for his son at the time of leaving his body, he was saved. So he wasn't taken and punished in different ways. He was saved by the agents of Krishna called the Vishnu Dutas. And so they saved him, and he got a new lease on life, and eventually he performed more spiritual activities, and he went back to the spiritual world. So the point is, by the chanting of Krishna's name, it's not important who we were or what we did before. Then we can be freed, forgiven, purified. Our desires can be eliminated. Cheto darpana marjanam bhava mahatbhagni nirvapanam, as described by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The impurities that we have in our heart can be eradicated, and then we can taste ecstasy or happiness, pleasure, like Niki, or like there's a John Leal tasting. So that's the benefit of chanting holy name. Oftentimes we talk about what's in it for me. So that's the benefit. Of course, ultimately, one comes to the point of pure love of God, and that's the only thing that really satisfies the self. Initially, you experience some ecstasies. Initially, you get the purification. If you study Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtak of prayers, you'll understand the whole progressive path of advancement in devotional service. So we encourage everyone here to chant Krishna's names as much as possible. Either chant by yourself on your beads, and if you don't have beads, you can see Dvaipayana here, or chant with the kirtan, with the devotees, and your life will become successful simply by that one process. Even in the beginning, if you don't understand what the chanting is, or what it means, what it represents, it doesn't matter. It acts just like fire will burn whether you believe it or not. That's the potency of the holy name. Now I remember just one story of my own personal history of coming to Krishna consciousness. The first time I heard the holy name, I didn't know what it was, what he was. I was simply trying to enjoy listening to the radio. I don't know if you know what radio is. Star radio? You know, that was before MP3s, that was before whatever, the internet in the old days. So I was tuning the radio. And I came across a station, and by Krishna's arrangement, Srila Prabhupada was chanting. You know, we have this one verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Brahmanda Brahmate on the Bhagavan Ji, Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhakti Bhakti Beach. That one's wandering, a person is wandering throughout all the universes, and somehow or other, by the mercy of Krishna, one comes in contact with a pure devotee and gets what's called the creeper, or the seed of the creeper of devotion. So I had no intention of taking up chanting Hare Krishna. I simply wanted to be a successful engineer. I was studying in Northwestern University, Evanston, Illinois. So I just wanted to become a big, big engineer. And like many do. But I turned on the radio, I heard Prabhupada chanting, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare. This is in 1968. And my whole life changed. What's that chanting? And then I began chanting, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. And here I am today. Didn't know what happened to me. So that's the benefit. Everything's there in the holy name. You chant it, you come in contact with Krishna, you become happy. And I can personally say that every day, my life, my spiritual practice is becoming more and more blissful. How many people could say that about their job? Some of you have a job. Every day is more blissful. You go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, I'm so happy to be here. You sing the same song. Oh my God, the same song. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Like that. So anyway, that's the benefit. You become happy. As Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna and become happy. Of course, during the 1960s, Prabhupada would say, chant Hare Krishna and stay high forever. So, Okay, so now we can take questions. Yes, yes.
One second.
Oh.
Microphones. Microphones.
What?
The microphones.
Microphones,
Go
okay.
ahead, go ahead, go. It's okay. It's on.
It'll be nice if someone can just pass around with the question. Tell us what we can do.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance.
Hare Bal.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj, you talked about how Valmiki ji, when he was not a devotee at that time, he thought that his family loved him, but
Yeah.
actually it wasn't love, it was lust. So my question is, what kind of relationship are we devotees supposed to have with our family members? Is it, should we have pure love for our family members?
Good question.
Are we supposed to be attached to our family members?
How would you like to take sannyas? No, that's just a joke. That's a joke? Don't quote me on that. So, okay. So if you love, yes, we're supposed to love our family members. So if you really love them, you want to do the best thing for them. Now, first of all, you got to find out what the best thing is. You know, sometimes you think the best thing is the best thing, but it is not the best thing, and it causes problems for them. I'll give you an example, a story that Prabhupada told. He said, once upon a time, there was a young boy, and he had some sort of liver disease. And when one has liver disease, one's really not supposed to take fried foods, because that can make the disease worse. Maybe it's hepatitis or something like that. So, but his brother, who loved him very much, but didn't know the right thing, he gave him some pakoras. And he made the boy very, very sick. So the first thing we should do is, if we want to love our family, if we love our family, and certainly we should, because that's what pleases Krishna. If everything is centered on Krishna, pleasing Krishna, then one will act perfectly even in this world. Krishna wants people to love each other. In fact, in the Isopanishad, it states, Yastu Sarvani Bhutani Atmane Vanapashati Sarvapateshu Chatmanam Tatona Vidigupshate, that one who sees Krishna actually loves everyone, doesn't hate anyone. So especially family members. And it's your dharma. That's part of your dharma. So therefore, what's the best thing for you to do for your family? What do you think is the best thing?
Introduce them to Krishna
Yeah,
consciousness.
try it gradually, not to force them. Sometimes we've seen husbands or fathers or mothers force their poor kid to chant, or their husband or wife to chant, or to take up Krishna consciousness. That causes the opposite reaction. Like if you tell your child, chant your 8 rounds or else you ain't eating. Then later on when the child grows up, the child is not going to be able to chant because the child is going to be experiencing PTSD. So you have to consider that too. What's the best thing and what's the best way to introduce your family to Krishna consciousness? So if you really care for them, you're going to care for their spiritual development too, their ultimate self-interest. Swarta Gatim Hi Vishnu. It says those who are not Krishna conscious don't understand Swarta Gatim Hi Vishnu. The ultimate goal is Krishna, becoming Krishna conscious. You want to do the best thing long term. And so you'll use some strategy or plan how to bring them to Krishna consciousness. Yeah, so love should be there. People should not renounce their families. And even if the other family members don't love you, you should stay with them. Because when you give them the holy names, they will love you. When people come to the higher platform, I mean, for example, in my own life, I always saw my mother as my desire fulfilling agent. You know, whenever I wanted anything, I go to my mother. You know, it was pretty cool. It was like having Aladdin's lamp. Aladdin's lamp. You know what that is? You rub the lamp, comes out desire tree, you know. Desire tree, make a wish. So I learned, this is before I became Krishna conscious, I actually learned how to get whatever I wanted from my mother. The methodology I used was when I asked her for something, I just reverted to sort of like a childhood type of, don't do this. Don't do this. I'm not trying to tell you how to deal with your mother. I reverted to childhood language and I would ask her for something. Let's say if I wanted a mobile phone or something. Of course, in those days, they didn't have mobile phones. I'd just say, Mommy, that's manipulative. Can I have this? And she would say, oh, even though you're an adult, I'll get it for you. So, but by taking up Krishna consciousness, then I developed real love for my mother. My love and respect and service became even more pronounced. And so, yeah, before she left, when she left her body, she was hearing the holy names, and she became very attracted to Krishna consciousness. One of the last things she said to me was she said she had some dementia. So she said to me that, you know, son, I'm a Hare Krishna. And I said to her, Mom, I am too. She said, oh, I didn't know that. She said, that's good news. So anyway, so I would say that relationship, and you know, because that's the really one of the few family relationships I have or had, became much deeper and much more of a loving relationship by my taking up Krishna consciousness. Because I became concerned with her and not using her as an object. And you know, children do use the parents as objects, and parents use the children as objects, and husbands use wives as objects, and wives use husbands as objects, you know. We want to get away from that. We want to have real love in this world. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All you need is love, as the song goes. So, who else has a question? Yes. Some of the other guests have a question. Yes.
Jai Krishna Maharaj, my question is, how can new people start chanting Krishna name unconditionally, like without expecting or thinking what is in it for us, like what is in it for me?
They won't be able to do it in the beginning. In the beginning, well, the way to come to that stage as soon as possible is to associate Mahatseva Mahurvi Muktes, or Sadhu Sangha, Sarvashastra Koi, Lava Mantra, Sadhu Sangha, Sarvasiri Hoi, to associate with great devotees, especially Prabhupada. If we read Prabhupada's books, serve his Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Raj Ki Jai. So we read Srila Prabhupada's books and associate with his movement and serve his society. Then by that association, which is actually extremely powerful, because pure devotees such as Srila Prabhupada are repositories of bhakti or pure devotion. And Krishna himself, this is an interesting point made by one great Acharya, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who says that Krishna himself doesn't give bhakti, but Krishna's devotees, bhakti is independent, and Krishna's devotees are able to give bhakti by their association. So while chanting, we serve Krishna's devotees. And not just Prabhupada, I think all the devotees. We understand that our situation is dasa, 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 anudasa. You know that expression? Okay, Gopi Bharata Padakamula dasa, 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 anudasa, which means we should consider ourselves a servant of a servant of a servant of a servant of the Lord. And let's see if I have time for the story. But anyway, there was one devotee His name was Kalidas, the devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was determined to serve all the devotees in the area which he lived, which is in the Navadvip area, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. And he was so reverent towards all the devotees that he wanted to eat all the devotees' remnants. In order to do that, he would give them gifts of prasadam, and he would wait outside their house until they threw away, let's say, the mango skins or something like that, and he would suck on them. Now, you may say, wow, why would you do something like that? Because it's a very powerful substance, or substances like the prasadam remnants of great devotees, or the foot bathing dust or foot bathing water of great devotees. So he would do that, and as a result, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him the benediction, which he never gave to anyone else, of being able to drink the foot bathing water of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was entering the temple. So, Jagannath temple, of course. And so, from that story, we can understand that by serving the devotees, then this bhakti will very soon manifest in our hearts, and we will come to the perfectional stage of chanting. But at the same time, we should be patient. Utsaham nisthya dharya tata karma pravartana. We should be enthusiastic and patient in chanting and have faith in Krishna's holy names. And it happens. Usually it takes years and years and years of patient, enthusiastic practice. But it happens. Guaranteed. So, next question. Another question by someone who doesn't ask questions. Other questions? Anyone have any questions? Questions?
Somebody
Yeah.
That's bad.
Hello, Patsi. So I had a simple question. So you mentioned one about about the atonement of the mistakes
Yeah.
that someone had done in the
Mhm.
past. That some
Mhm.
of these sadhus, used to slash their backs when they did something sinful.
Yeah.
So how can one stop thinking about the past and live in the present moment without being in the past, since that can lead to some anxiety issues? Like, how can one
You're talking
stop
about
the past?
something like feeling guilty about what you did in the past or something?
Yeah.
Because let's say I did this, I did that in the past. I think a little remembrance and perhaps, not overwhelming guilt, can be an impetus to take up the process of Krishna consciousness. Not that we dwell on what we did in the past, we did something. All of us did so many things before we took up Krishna consciousness. And even some of the great acharyas, like Valmiki and others, did so many things. So, basically, the process is hearing and chanting. Hearing the holy names and associating with those, and being reassured that the past really doesn't matter.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah. Hearing that, we hear this again and again, the past doesn't matter. The past is gone. There's nothing you can do about the past. And, but it also, it's another point, is understanding or even having some sort of remembrance of the past will help us be more cautious in our dealings. We all have some weak points. For example, let's say if someone was an alcoholic before, and so they understand they probably shouldn't try to preach Krishna consciousness in a bar. It's probably a pretty bad idea. So, to be aware what sort of maya or illusion or attraction we have in this world, and be cautious about it. That's how the past can help us. It'll help us be cautious about our behavior, because we know we can fall into certain, as they say, pitfalls. Okay? So, but you have an opportunity.
So you were talking about the power of the holy names.
Yeah.
I know there's a text that was talking about how like X number of Vishnus equals like 3 Rams, 3 Rams equals 1 Krishna. So I'm wondering, what does it mean for one of Krishna's names to be more powerful than the rest? I guess like practically speaking.
So in other words, you're asking the question, should you stop chanting every other name of God in the Maha Mantra and just chant Hare Krishna, 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 or forget about Hare. Just Krishna, 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 Krishna. The most potent form of chanting, even though that description is there, is to chant in the way that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us, which is the Maha Mantra. So that's the most potent way, because if we want to get Krishna's mercy, or if we want to get Ram's mercy, then we have to approach Ram and Krishna through same persons, of course, as we mentioned last night. We have to approach them through Radharani and Sita. You understand? So there's a methodology for chanting. It's not that you can just take things out of context where it says that one name is more powerful than another name. Actually, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu states, Nam Namakali Bahuda, Nichasarvasakti. You know that? You don't know? Oh,
I'm not familiar with the verse.
where does it come from?
Oh, so you didn't trade them, right? Oh, she's
Uh-oh. Now, Namakari, Anija Sarasakti, the Prabhupada, the Tasman, Kala, Tatraji Takakupa, that you've invested all your transcendental potency in Nija Sarva Shaktis in your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for any. This is how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us to think as we're chanting. Rather than judging, even though there's some shastric basis, but rather than judging, oh, this is more potent than this, that is more potent than that. Actually, what will determine how you experience that potency is your own desire, your own mood while you're chanting, your own quality while you're chanting. So, Trinadapi Savichena, you know what it is?
Yeah, it's different. You do know that one.
I do know that verse.
Okay. You have to talk to your Shiksha Guru there. Trinadapi Savichena. There are is the Ishvana, Manina, Manadena, Kirtaniya, Sadhari. We should cultivate the mood of abject humility. Isn't it? Trinadapi Savichena. Be lower, think of ourselves lower in the story. We're a servant of a servant. That's how you get the potency of the holy name. In this way, you'll be able to chant all the time with quality. Kirtaniya Sadhari. And then you won't be interested. But here's another verse, see if you know it. Nadanam. Should I give him that verse? Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim. Kavivat. Pranitava. Jagadishi Kamaye. There's your assignment for next week. You learn all eight verses.
From Shishastika?
Yeah, Shikshastra. Very important. English and Sanskrit. Jagadishi Kamaye. Isn't it? Nidanam Nijanam Nasundarim Kavidam Jagadishi Janmani Shri. I'm not interested in any of the things of this world. Of course, don't say that to your wife. I'm not interested in beautiful women. That'd be bad for your marriage. So anyway, the Dhanam the Jan, or wealth, or prestige, or followers or anything like that. All I want is your followers. So the more we recite these verses and understand Lord Chaitanya's mood, the more our quality of chanting will increase, will deepen. Okay? Very, very important for everybody to learn these verses of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shishasha. So, other questions or comments? Yes, sir. Which sir?
Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Hare Ram.
This question with respect to the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18 and verse 5.
Okay.
The translation goes like this by Prabhupada, like acts of sacrifice, charity, and
Never to be given up.
and are not to be given up.
Yeah.
They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls.
That's right.
My question is like the purport ends with like, if charity is given to suitable persons, as described previously, it leads one to advance spiritual life.
That's right.
So my question is to one with the Krishna conscious mind and the one which is not with the Krishna conscious person.
Yeah.
Let's say in a family, of course, the charity can be given to the Krishna conscious activities, and then purify can happen for the people who are
Right.
with Krishna's journey. Those who are not attached to the Krishna consciousness journey, for them in a family, what is the best way, or we should recommend them to give a charity? Who are the right persons? What should be the methods of charity for them?
Well, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita previously talks about charity in the different modes of nature, as you're aware. Mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. In goodness, it's given without any expectation of return. Passion, you're giving it for some expectation of return. And ignorance, you don't care about anything. The improper person, improper place, improper thing. So, one should encourage people to give, first of all, give charity to Krishna conscious people. I mean, that's the first thing. And if they can't do that, like Krishna in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, get to the technical question, gives us different fallback positions. You know what the word fallback position means? That if you can't do this, you can do that, you can't do that. So he says in the beginning, just always think of me. If you can't do that, follow the rules and regulations of Bhakti Yoga. And if you can't do that, just work for me. And what's that? And if you can't, do that, then just act in a way that's little detached. Be detached from the fruits of your activities. And then he gets into cultivating. Anyway, he gives a whole bunch of fallback positions. So if one can't be Krishna conscious, or someone can't do something Krishna conscious, better they do things in the mode of goodness. Because the mode of goodness is a place from which one can jump off to Krishna consciousness. In other words, if one can't offer their food to Krishna, then, or doesn't want to offer their food, let them at least be vegetarians. And then, of course, we're not recommending the vegetarian diet, like Prabhupada would often say, monkeys are also vegetarians. But at the same time, it's a fallback position. It's not as degraded. So one should encourage people to have a fallback position that's as high in the hierarchy of the modes of nature as possible. Does that make sense?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, I think mode of goodness. I think. And
Yeah, mode of goodness. Mode of goodness, if you can't do something for Krishna, then do something in the mode of. It's better than doing something in the mode of. Because in the mode of goodness, one can understand things. We understand that someone who is performing activities in the mode of ignorance, particularly killing animals or being responsible for killing animals, cannot understand spiritual life. But from the mode of goodness, one can come up there. But of course, there's problems with the mode of goodness, according to the Bhagavad Gita, too, that one becomes conditioned to a sense of happiness in the mode of goodness. So, but it's better than the mode of ignorance and passion. Is that right?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay. A few more questions. Good questions here. Yeah.
Does anyone over here have any questions?
Oh, I forgot about all the ladies. No.
I'm wondering if I should say what I want to say. Anyway, I'm happy that this Prabhu, he talks about the power of Lord Rama.
Yeah.
And then you said we must follow the teaching that Lord Chaitanya gave. I
Yeah.
like that. Can we also say that that even though Lord Chaitanya taught us this, established this, is it true that, is it correct to say that this was also said by Lord Brahma in the Kali Santana Upanishad?
Yes, that's right.
That this mantra is specific?
Yes.
Iti Ishwara Sakam Namnam,
Yeah.
Kali Karmana.
Yeah. Thank you for
So
that.
can you, that's good, you know?
Well, no, I'll tell you an interesting story that involves a temple in India, in a place called Ramuna. It's called the Shira Chora Gopinath Temple. Okay. And it's a very interesting deity. But does anyone know how that deity was made? Anybody know the story? No one knows the story. Okay, here's the story. It's about Lord Ram. So, Lord Ram and Sita one day were in Ramuna. Ramuna is in a place, is in a state of India called Orissa. Now it's Orissa. Previously it wasn't. So, and there's this beautiful deity there called the Shira Chora Gopinath deity, which means the deity that stole sweet rice for his devotee, Madhavendra Puri. So the story goes that once upon a time, Sita Devi asked Lord Ram, "What do you look like in Dwarpa Yuga?" Because Lord Ram appeared in the Treta Yuga. And Lord Ram took out his arrow and took out a stone and he carved the deity. And that's where the deity comes from. I don't know if anyone's heard that story before. So, Lord Ram certainly predicted the chanting of the Lord's holy names in the Kali Santara Upanishad. And he was aware that he would appear as Krishna in the Dwarpa Yuga. So, any other information? Anything else you want to know about that?
No, Maharaj. Thank you.
Interesting story, isn't it? Interesting story. Yes, sir.
Maharaj, I had a question. I know this Hare Krishna mantra is mentioned in the Kali Santara Upanishad, right?
Right.
So I want to know what is going on in the Upanishad at what point of because Bhagavatam is all Maharaj Parikshit is asking and then Sukdev Goswami is answering the question. So that's how conversations come up. And what is going on in Kali Santara Upanishad that this mantra comes up there or
Oh, the context.
Yeah.
So maybe someone else knows that more than I do. It's not one of the Upanishads that I've studied completely, so.
But this was it. That Upanishad, the Kali Santana
Upanishad, I think Lord Brahma was
Yeah.
telling Narad Muni, and that was before the advent of Lord Chaitanya.
Yes, but what is the context? I mean, how did that conversation come about? What did Lord Rama say?
As I see, my understanding is that Lord Brahma was telling Narad Muni and telling us that this is a specific mantra for the Kali Yuga. The verse 5 is the Hare Krishna mantra, and the 6, Iti Ishwara Sakam Namnam, Kali Karmasan Nasanam.
Number 16.
Na Paratarupaya Sarva Videshu Dirishtate. These 16 words in the Hare Krishna mantra can remove all the sins of Kali.
Yes.
Na Paratarupaya Sarva. If one searches all the Vedas, he will not find a better path.
Very nice. Very nice. Wonderful.
So it was before Lord Chaitanya advent.
Yeah, that was way before Lord Chaitanya's advent.
So,
That was before Krishna's advent. So, yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, these are my humble obeisances. So, my question is, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he recommend Sankirtan, which is for this age,
Right.
congregational chanting. And then we do, Srila Prabhupada mentioned there's at least 16 rounds of japa chanting.
Yes.
So can you expound a little bit, does one has a reaction to the next, or can you describe the benefits of each? How does, is one better than the next, or does it work
No,
together?
they're both required. The personal japa, that is japa is personal, is meant to help one develop a direct, let's say, intimate relationship with Krishna. And the kirtan is basically meant to, well, the Sankirtan means two things. Actually, I should define the terms. Sankirtan not only means congregational chanting of the Lord's holy names, it also means a complete chanting, absorbed chanting of the Lord's holy names. So, but our japa is really meant to help us just get really down and personal with Krishna. You know, it's our what we call private time
Yes.
with Krishna. And yeah, so that's basically japa. And the kirtan is basically to join with other Vaishnavas and to bring other people to Krishna's holy name. And also we can get personal when we're chanting too, but you don't want to get too personal and start crying and rolling on the ground like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because that would be counterproductive. Okay? So, yeah. Oh, sorry.
I guess, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the lesson. So my question is, so how do you, I guess especially like, kind of like being more attached to like the body, it's very easy, like whenever people do things to you, you can like, I guess it leaves impressions. So how do you stop like, cause you had mentioned whenever you were talking about the story of how the Vamukhi Ramayan came about, just like we shouldn't really judge people based on like the past.
Right.
And so how do you, like if certain people make these certain impressions on you, how do you start to not identify them with their past, but start to identify more as like, oh, you hold Krishna within your body, like see them more as a temple and a servant?
Okay, good question. Well, this involves a course that I teach called Empathic Communication. Some of you may have heard about this before. That generally, what we do is when we see people, we come in contact with people, whether it's due to the past or something, some impression at present, we tend to label them. You know, let's say if we see someone does something, he makes a mistake, we label them as stupid. Stupid. Or spaced out. Or something like that. So this is called an upadi. Not only do we have these bodily upadis, bodily upadi means, you know, I think I'm American, or I think I'm a certain age, or I think I'm a man, or I think I'm a woman. That's an upadi. But we have these, let's say, subtle upadis, even about ourselves. Oh, I'm very intelligent, I am very good. And about other people, we tend to jump into upadis or designations. Oh, he doesn't know the Shikshashtaka. Rascal! No, I'm not going to do like that, don't worry. So then, I will see you through that lens. That's called a diagnosis. You know, we're going around diagnosing people all the time. Rascal. You know, so every time I see him, oh, rascal.
I'm gonna do my homework, Maharaj.
And I'm just teasing you. And every time I see you, because you knew the answer, intelligent. So you're walking around right now with a label on your forehead, intelligent, brilliant, good memory. He's walking around with another label on his forehead. No, I'm not really thinking like that. I'm just giving an example of how people think. They do. And they say first impressions, last impressions. So you really tend to just pigeonhole people like that. And so you got to really catch yourself doing that. and understand that people are not static. We are dynamic. In other words, you may take a section of time when someone does something and then think of them in terms of that one particular segment of time. But they're different. I'm sure that he does a lot of intelligent things, right?
He does.
He does, okay. And I'm sure that, I'm sorry, if you do things sometimes that are not so intelligent.
More often than not.
You know, so therefore, I, or all of us, have to see people in terms of living entities who are dealing with their own feelings and needs and trying their best, especially with devotees trying to be Krishna conscious. See people as dynamic and worthy of compassion and ready for change.
Thank you very much.
That's really important. To see people as dynamic entities rather than static. And better to see people as ecstatic than static. You understand? Ecstatic. So, yeah. I think that answers your question. Yeah, so catch yourself. When I'm looking at someone, I'm putting a label on them. No, I don't want to do that. Catch myself. And then just think, the person's trying their best. Okay? Good question. That's actually quite a good question. It involves that whole course I teach on empathic communication. Just, yes.
Hare
You
Krishna.
can have one last question, Maharaj.
For one.
6:37 now.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Just continuing the question which
Closer to the mic.
Yes, continuing the question which Vash Govinda Prabhu asked.
Yeah.
This statement which says 1,000 name of Narayana is one name of Rama,
Mhm.
3 name of Rama is one name of Krishna. In what context this statement comes in the Shastra?
It comes in terms of the intimacy of different names. And not in terms of how much it's going to purify you. Like that. The name of Krishna is the most intimate name. So it's not that, oh my God, I gotta chant Vishnu's name 1,000 times, just to make up for, because I'm not chanting Krishna's name. But the point is that the intimacy or the deepness of the relationship with Krishna is unexcelled in terms of other appearances of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As Prabhupada would sometimes say, Krishna is God at home. Lord Vishnu is God in the office. So, for example, who has a closer relationship with a man? His wife? Well, hopefully it is his wife and not his secretary. But anyways. I'll catch myself with these things. His wife or his business partner, obviously. His wife at home. Of course, this is America, you never know. So, but that's the potency. That's the potency. He's the same person, regardless. Advaita Chuta Nadir Ananta Rupamajam Purana Purusham Navyovanam Chavedeshu Durubama Durubamatma. One of my favorite verses. Govindamani Purusham Tamaham Sham. Advaita, there's one person. One, he's not different. Achyuta, he's infallible. Ananta Rupam, he has unlimited forms or unlimited manifestations. He's the original, Ajum Purana. He's the oldest. And he is always Navayogana, youthful. He's not doesn't generally appear as an old man. Navayogana. But he cannot be understood simply. So you take these verses out of context. Vedeshu Durlabham. So you read these things and say, what does it mean? But Adurlabham Atma Bhakta. when one's a devotee with realization, one can understand these things. Govindamani Purusham Tamaham. So, thank you all very much. All those who